So yeah, so the next recipe that we're going to look at is dessert, which in some cases, you know, especially for those who are looking to lose weight, you know, they might think that those are no-no foods, just given the fact that, you know, desserts usually have that connotation of indulgence, high calorie, high sugar, high fat.
And reward.
And yes. So, you know, Jeremy and I kind of debated on like what kind of dessert we're going to use today, because, you know, it's impossible to stay away from foods, right? There's so much research indicating that, you know, when you limit or you avoid food completely, the cravings get bigger, right? And so it really is about balance and you know, some sort of adaptability. In fact, there was a research study where they looked at mice, and they sustained all food from these mice for a bunch of hours, and then they provided the mice with a sugary liquid, and they just completely binged on it. Whereas the mice who had the sugary liquid around all the time kind of went and got some when they wanted, and, you know, didn't whenever they wanted. So this type of behavior can be applied to human beings as well. And so I want to stress that it's okay to indulge at times and on occasion, but again, to be mindful of those occasions. And so when you are looking towards desserts, there are obviously ways that you could make them, I don't like saying healthier because that's making foods seem good and bad, but, you know, using foods that, like we talked about, that are part of that Mediterranean diet where, you know, getting lots of color from fruits and vegetable, maybe or not vegetable, or you can use vegetables in fruit desserts, I suppose. Zucchini muffins are one of my favorites, but incorporating proteins as well. Or healthy fats, right? So using those principles in the desserts that you're choosing as well. So, tell us.
Yes, so we're going to be using some berries, and we're going to make a really simple dessert, but by sort of adding a couple things to the berries, we're just going to elevate it a little bit to make it more of a dessert and not just a bowl of fruit, which is also very tasty and enjoyable. But we're going to change it up a little bit. So what we have here are just some mixed berries. We have some raspberries and we have some strawberries. Again, in season, you know, try to take advantage, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with frozen fruit as well. We love frozen fruit, just as nutritious.
Yes.
And they're so tasty. They're really tasty, and we can get them all year round, which is fantastic. So I'm actually even using some frozen blueberries as well, just to mix it up. Now what we want to do to this is we want to pull out some of the juices to create almost sort of this natural syrup. And so we call that sort of maceration. We're macerating the berries, and it's fairly simple. We're adding a little bit of sugar. So if you want to sprinkle that over top.
Just a little.
Yeah. Not liberally, but sparingly.
Yeah, it's about 2 teaspoons.
Is that enough?
No, you can. It's about 2 teaspoons.
I don't want to overdo it here.
So the thing is, a lot of people are like, oh no,
how's that?
Adding sugar.
A little bit more? A little bit
Yeah,
more?
a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're using quite a bit of berries, and it's going to make a large portion size. So, you know.
And we're doing this because it's going to help to pull out all of the juices in the berries. Compared to a lot of the desserts that you might get in a restaurant or that you might buy from the freezer, this is considerably less sugar, and you're in control of it, right? So we're using very, very little. I'm adding a little bit of lemon juice as well. That's also going to help. And if you want to just give this a little stir. Now, what the sugar is going to do, and actually I'm going to add, again, just a little pinch of salt. We're not adding too much. Like, this is granulars. But it's going to completely boost the flavor of the berries. It's going to make them taste even more like berries. And what it's going to do is going to pull out all the natural juices in the berries. And it's going to create this really, really nice sort of topping. This really nice.
And how long do you have to let it sit to pull out the juice?
Yeah, so at least 10 minutes. Yeah, so that's perfect, Tony.
Okay.
And then what you would want to do is just put that in the refrigerator. put that in the refrigerator and let it sit, and you'll notice, we'll do a little swap here, you'll notice a lot of the juices coming out.
Can you leave it all day?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're gonna get sort of like nice and soft and super tasty.
Wow.
So you can see see that juice coming out of the bottom, and it is super, super tasty. Like this on top of any dessert is going to be fantastic. And all the color too, like look how vibrant and colorful that is, right?
Yeah, and again, you know, why do we talk about having lots of color from vegetables and fruit? And it doesn't matter which ones you're choosing, you just want to get a variety. And each color represents the phytonutrients. So these are basically compounds that help protect your cells. They're parts of the plant that, you know, it's on top of the fiber, the vitamins and the minerals. It's something that you can't capture in a pill form, right? And so the color is a clue to the different phytonutrient that you're getting. So that's another reason that, you know, you want to aim to have some sort of color, fruit in your dessert or snack, you know, whatever it might be.
Okay, and then the next part. So we have something nice and soft, and we want something that's a little crunchy. So we're gonna play with the textures a little bit. So we're gonna make a quick brittle, and this is super, super easy. We're using sesame seeds. You can use any nuts, any seeds that you want. We actually make this quite a bit. This is the same recipe we use for our granola. It's 2 ingredients, so really, really easy. So we have sesame seeds, and we're gonna add a little bit of maple syrup.
Oh, perfect.
Now, again, we're making a big batch. So it's not like you're having all the maple syrup, but it's not too much, and then just mix it all together. Yeah, stir it all until it's nice and coated in there.
Another thing I wanted to mention about cravings is, you know, for most of history, you know, since humans were on the planet, there's always been the sense of food cravings, and they've served a purpose in terms of survival. So always constantly looking for food. But nowadays, right, we don't necessarily have that. There's food, you know, all around us. You go into a mall, there's food courts, right? You're watching television, there's all these advertisements regarding food. So there's things that we need to do in order to be mindful around those behaviors, because our bodies are kind of hardwired to have these cravings, and it's a survival purpose. So, you know, asking yourself before you're eating something, kind of why is it? Like, what is the intention? Being mindful around that. So, you know, we eat for very different reasons. It's not only because we're hungry, but sometimes it is you're craving something, and you might not know what you're craving for. So asking yourself that can be helpful. So a few tips. Who likes to have something crunchy? Right? So it might be asking, is it because I'm craving something crunchy? Instead of going for maybe chips, you go for nuts or seeds, or this beautiful brittle that we're going to be making. Other times, it might not even be the fact that you are hungry. You know, it might be kind of emotional support, or you're bored, or you're thirsty, so you need to drink, or, you know, be with a friend, or going for a walk, something like that. So just kind of being mindful around when you do notice that well, the first thing is to notice that you're having a craving. The second thing is to kind of stop and assess kind of what is going on and whether or not you could kind of take a different route.
Steph, do I have to apply that to the quart of caramel ice cream in the freezer?
Well, that brings me to my last point, where you're your own best judge as to what balance looks like. Again, the more you say no to anything, the more you are going to want that thing. That is, I know everybody could relate to that in terms of probably their own history. So, you know, indulge in times. Like, you know, food is meant to be pleasurable, so enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yes.
I feel better about it now.
Yeah, on
I'm heading straight
occasion.
home.
So what Tony did, really simply, mix the maple syrup, sesame seeds together, spread it evenly onto a baking pan lined with parchment paper, and then that's going to go into the oven 350 degrees for about 15 minutes. So that goes into the oven, and even if it's not perfectly settled, not that you didn't do a great job, no, not at all. The maple syrup actually, as it heats, is going to move everything into place, and it's going to make it really, really nice and even. So you don't even have to spend a lot of time. You just want it sort of flat.
And the paper won't burn?
No, paper won't burn. Parchment paper is, that's a good question. Parchment paper is most of it, it'll say on the box, but is heat tested to usually about 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Some are 425. Just check the box, but for the purposes of most of the cooking, it's not going to be a problem. Yeah. All right, so swap. Magic oven, and this is what it looks like after it's done.
That's a lot more than.
It is a lot more, yes. Yeah, I made more, I have more people. But yeah, so this is what it looks like after it's done, and you can see it will, what happens as it cools, the maple syrup will cool, and it'll create this beautiful little brittle, right? So you can sort of break it up.
Right now?
Yes, you can. Just to make sure we did a good job. Perfect. And that's the crunch, that's the texture, right?
Good?
So we have our texture, crunch, we have our topping, our fruit, and the bottom is going to be just some really, really nice yogurt. Now we're going for a thick yogurt, right? Again, we want to make this mimic dessert.
Right. So that looks like ice cream.
So it looks like ice cream, not necessarily ice cream, but this is skyr. This is an Icelandic yogurt. This and Greek yogurts are usually the thicker ones, unless you can get some lebna, which is a really, really nice thick yogurt. Again, just go for the plain, and any yogurt will work. Just for our purposes, we're going to use this one. And you can absolutely season the yogurt as well. Much like I did the ricotta, you can grate some orange zest into this, maybe put some fresh mint into it, whatever you like. We're going to keep it just super simple. So just a little bit of that yogurt on the bottom of our bowl. And again, if you were serving this as a dessert to people, you know, you could take a little bit of extra time.
Is this per serving? Is that what you're doing, or is this more than a single serving?
This would be,
Serving.
yeah, this would be a serving.
Yeah,
This would be
serving of yogurt is about 3/4 of a cup.
Yeah. And then we're going to go with those berries on top. We're going to be generous with these berries. Lots of antioxidants here, right, Steph?
Yeah.
And that's that syrup that's now been pulled out. And you know what? We're going to go with a big shard on top, like that.
Nice.
There we go.